Okay, part 7 of Girl, just girl. But I want to bring you guys into like, okay, well, what was I doing during this time? So I'm like, okay, Jennifer, you need to get back in your word. You need to be praying. You need to be fasting. You need to be seeking God. I think I went to Sarah's conference, and I'm a conference girl. Like, that ain't nothing new. I didn't just meet Jesus or anything. I was going to conference. I was going to church. I was really, really like honing in on like wanting to hear God, but it was very cloudy because I really couldn't hear what God really wanted me to hear versus what I really desired to happen. Because the reality of it was like, I didn't want to fail marriage. I didn't want to, publicly be embarrassed because now this was yet another relationship. And I've only ever posted 2 relationships publicly ever in my life. And both of them, I was engaged or married. And I'm like, I didn't want to have to deal with that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, I'm going to fight for my marriage. But I also made a promise to myself that if this didn't turn around within about 6 months, I was out of there. Because you also have to remember at this time, like, I'm very big on self-worth. I'm very big on women standing their ground and not letting a man do them dirty, etc. And remember, I'm giving him the excuse and the grace of this is because of the surgery. This is like a reaction from the surgery, yada, yada, whoop-de-whoop. So that's how I was governing myself as a wife. I'm praying, I'm fasting. There were even times like I would get up and go into his office, and that's where I would spend my quiet time. He would like barge in there looking around and doing crazy stuff even in that. Like, and y'all, most of all, let me say that. If you understand people with that type of toxic personality trait, you understand that in the spirit realm, it is spirit of Leviathan, it's a spirit of pride. And that thing was manifesting real bad. But in that time, I was like, I'm going to give my best shot. I'm going to fight for my marriage. It's the first time I've been married. I'm at least going to try to fight. So that's where I was at that point in the midst of all the chaos going on. But let's get back into the story. I think at this point, this is when I go to therapy. I start going to therapy, and wonderful woman, can't thank her enough to this day. The first couple of sessions, I'm just introducing her to what's going on. Every session it was something new. Every time I came up in there, it was like, what happened in your circus this week? Because that's really what it felt like. It felt like a circus. I just finished listening to another recording. So this man would antagonize me. This is some of the circus stuff that was going on. That's what we're just going to call. We're going to call this next part, Welcome to the Circus. He would antagonize me because I would, when you are with someone like this, one of the things that they do is they deny you the love that you want. Like in the beginning, showering me with compliments and love and affirmation and da-da-da-da-da-da, and then he snatched it away. Right? So one of the things that we had been discussing, I was like, well, you're not really affectionate, da-da-da-da. And he was antagonizing me one day. And he was like, he said on this recording, he was like, we must have just finished arguing because I was pissed in this recording. And he was like, you still want hugs and kisses? I guess like in the middle of the argument to antagonize me. And I was like, no. Something else that would happen in this circus. So, after this major surgery, you're not supposed to drink. I would find airplane bottles in his pocket because he was sneaking off and drinking. Something else that happened in this circus, he wasn't supposed to be driving for a certain amount of time because just had open heart surgery. And we had came back from one of the therapy sessions, I believe, one of the just terrible therapy sessions. And he runs out the house, grabs his keys, hops in the car. It's funny because I remember it. And for people that have had heart surgery, they give you a heart pillow. And I remember looking out the window, and all I see is him with the pillow right here and him driving away. And I'm looking out the window like, Lord have mercy. So of course, like I'm telling my mom, I'm telling his mom, I'm like, this man just left, he ain't supposed to be driving. Everybody's like, what is he doing? And then I end up having to call his doctor because I'm telling his doctor like, hey, I'm his wife. I'm the one that sees him the most. I'm the one that's laying next to this man every night. When the kids ain't at the house, I'm here 24/7 because I wasn't working. I was a full-time entrepreneur, so it was me and him most of the time. And I told him what happened, and he was like, well, yeah, he's not supposed to do that. And I was like, yeah, I was like, honestly, he needs some help. He needs some medication. He needs something because he was literally like acting like he had lost his mind. So let's get into another funny story. So this was one of, I don't even know what we were arguing about. It was something, he woke up angry. That was the norm around there. He would wake up angry. And then sometimes he would wake up loving too, but you know, on this particular day, he woke up angry. And we got into an argument of, I don't even remember about what, but we're in this argument, and because he was, I think he was like back, this was when he went back to, I want you to get out, because, you know, it didn't matter what day of the week it was. One day he wanted me to stay, one day he wanted me to go, you know, didn't know what I was going to wake up to. This day he wanted me to go. So he wanted me to go so bad that he took, mind you, this is his mattress. This is after his surgery too. He ain't supposed to be doing no heavy lifting and nothing like that for like 6 months to a year, something like that, some long period of time. He takes his king size mattress, y'all, and takes it out the bedroom, takes it down the stairs, pulls it out to the end of the curb because he's going to get rid of his bed to be spiteful to me. Then this is the best part. It's the best part, y'all. I'm so glad I can laugh about this stuff now. I mean, I laughed then, but I laugh now. Y'all, the best part is after he does this, I'm sitting upstairs. I'm still in the room. I'm taking pictures and I'm sitting. I'm like, y'all, this man done took the bed out the room, because it was literally always something. I was texting my mom and my best friend literally every day with something new. He storms back upstairs and he's mad because he ain't got nowhere to sit down because he threw his bed out. Here's another part of the circus. There were some oven mitts in the kitchen, and he was looking for the oven mitts, and I think because I didn't put them exactly back in the drawer or the same drawer, something like that, he lost it because of the oven mitts. Here's another one. Before his surgery, because he had this chain, he gave me this chain to put on before he went into surgery because he can't wear it. So he gave it to me to wear. Then I'm still wearing it after the surgery. One day he comes up and looks at me. He's like, "You stole my chain." I'm like, you gave it to me and told me to wear it. And one day we were texting. I forget what we were texting about, but he says to me, he was like, "You are a terrorist, and I don't communicate with terrorists." I'm like, "I'm your wife." Not really sure where the terrorist part came from. Then one day, because he always accused me of staring at him, and I'm not even the staring type. I'm from New Jersey. We don't stare at people. We get an attitude when people stare at us. So I'm like, not staring at you, but he looked at me and he said, "Stop staring at me. You're either gonna get this meat or you're gonna get this heat." Something else he did to be spiteful to me, like, you know, the little heart pillow that had everybody signed it. The place where I signed it, he scribbled my name out to be spiteful. Then there was always the, you know, doing things and specifically not including me, not inviting me, just going out and doing whatever and not including me, but then wanting to come home and wanting to cuddle with me, wanting to make love to me, wanting to do all these things. Then there was the whole, he wanted a baby, then he didn't want a baby, but he wasn't acting like he didn't want a baby. Then he went and got a pregnancy test because he was hoping that I was pregnant. I mean, baby, it was a circus, and I'm not done. I'm not done. Because now we also need to get into, not the ex-wife, you know, the exes. There was one in particular that, to this day, God's grace be with her. Lord have your mercy, because I was gone if I ever ran into her. Because, you know, at this point, you know, I'm also curious because I'm like, something's off. So now I'm becoming a detective, right? Like, I'm like, I need to figure out what is going on here. I'm so confused. Like, there's got to be something else that I'm missing here. Like, the mental and emotional whirlwind that I was in, I was just like, I got to figure this thing out. Like, I didn't understand. And one day I was going through, I forget what I was going through, something of his, and I find this piece of paper that was wrapped up, and I opened it up, and to my surprise, it was a letter from his most recent ex-girlfriend. Next part. Welcome back. We on part 8 of Welcome to the Ghetto. I want you to note something, because I did a lot of research after I went through this ordeal, and I became very knowledgeable in these toxic personality traits and things. One thing to know is that they tend to go for women that are similar. And there were 3 women that he had dealt with before me that I promise you, if I was able to put their pictures on here, you would be like, they look like triplets. And that was one of them. So the first one that I'm going to talk about, one of the triplets, this was his most recent ex. And in the letter, I'm not going to disclose everything from the letter. 1, because I don't remember it all, and 2, because some of it was personal. It was a very heartfelt letter of her basically expressing to him that you are a liar, and that he had her thinking one thing when he was over here fully pursuing me, and not only pursuing me, but had already went on and married me. And she had to find that out through the grapevine, right? And she had experienced some things and all of this stuff, but I particularly paid attention to a date of the time that she said they had last slept together. They had last slept together 3 days after he asked me to be his girlfriend. And after reading this letter and reading some of the things that she had put in that letter, I said, you can't keep blaming this on the surgery, Jennifer. This is who he is. So my eyes are starting to open up. Eyes open up. Then there was another one, and I found her on, I think it was Twitter. And I forget exactly how we first had a conversation, but she was nasty. I mean, the girl was just nasty. She had bad attitude. She antagonized me for probably about a year or some change on Twitter about my situation. But nonetheless, I found out about her. He was messing with her while he was with the other ex. And I don't even think she know that he was messing with her when they was together. But she basically was subliminally messaging me, but every subliminal she was like sharing the secrets that she wanted me to know, which was what I wanted her to do anyway, because I'm like, I'm trying to piece together a puzzle here, girl. Like, what? I wanted to just get on the phone with her and have a conversation, but she wouldn't do it. I'm like, okay, well, she kept putting the things out there antagonizing me, but she was just making it clearer to me what was really going on and the type of person that I was dealing with. And then the third one, I didn't really find out too much about her. I didn't really need to know too much. But just the way that she looked to confirm, like literally they had the same shape face, same complexion, all the things. But it was just like, oh, okay, so you have a type. But then I was looking at myself and the ex-wife, and I'm like, she and I are more similar. I'm like, so you have a marrying type, but you have a sneak around on the side type too. It was weird. And while we're on the exes, there was another thing that the ex-wife, oh, this is what started going on with the ex-wife. They started like talking on the phone like every day. Like I'm sitting in the bed with him and he's sitting on the phone with his ex-wife, or he's downstairs on the phone with his ex-wife, and I'm like, she's married and you're married to me, but y'all on the phone all the time? And her husband had a conversation with me outside, like way back in the beginning, and was like, hey, you know, I know the dynamics are weird. They were weird for me too, but it's all good. Like, you know, just chill. So I'm like, okay, well, if he's saying it's okay, then it's okay. It wasn't okay. Because she one day says to me in a conversation, because she and I had a couple conversations soon, she was like, well, you do know me and so-and-so are like best friends. Confusion. Because I'm his wife. You're his ex-wife, but you're his best friend. What? I was like, what in the triangulation is going on here? Because, you know, that's not God's order. That's not God's, like, I'm sorry. I'm not calling my ex-husband my best friend and I'm married to somebody else. That's disrespectful. Like, you just don't do that. When you marry somebody, that's your best friend. Y'all become one. Like, that person is above all. But this also, you know, just goes to show how toxic this blended family situation was at the time. Okay, so at this point, I think this is where, you know, I had been in therapy for a while, and it's like things had gone awry. Like, I had went out one evening. I had way too much to drink. I was stressed out in that situation. Ended up hitting some like this like curb thing and totaling my car. Thankfully, I was okay, but I was inebriated. I got arrested, and then after that, I got arrested, and then I went to jail. Well, of course, but when I woke up that next morning, you know, like my family's all like, you know, are you good? What's going on? Are you okay? You know, I'm showing my mom like that I'm okay. He didn't put his hands on me and nothing like that. Like I got into the accident, you know, I'm just kind of broke down because I was like, okay, now things have gotten real. Like, Jennifer, this situation is out of control. You don't have control of the situation. You barely have control of yourself. You are emotionally drained. You are mentally stressed out. You are financially tapped. I remember there was a point in time my cell phone was turned off, and my homeboy was like, yo, he hit me up on Instagram, was like, yo, I've been trying to hit you. And I was like, yeah, I was like, my phone is off, I can't pay the bill. He immediately sent me the money to get my phone turned back on. Like, I was down. When I say I was down bad, baby, I was down bad. Now, I didn't think this story was going to get me upset because it's really funny, but when, you know, I look back at the situation and just where, like, how bad things got, or how God still had his hand on me, I just can't help but be grateful, right? So at this point, I had wrote him like a letter, and I just was kind of like trying to remind him of the man that he said I was. And I just was like, you know, the man that pursued me never yelled at me. He honored me publicly, because I mean, there was internet shaming. He would talk about me like a dog on his social media. It was bad. I was like, you were the man that sent me prayers. You were the man that included me in everything. You honored me. You took care of me. You covered me. Like, the man that he showed me in the beginning, I'm like, I had wrote that, but it seemed like the more of my feelings and my emotions that I gave him, the worse he treated me. Now, I wasn't educated in what emotional and like mental, I didn't know that that type of abuse was called abuse, right? Like, I had been through mental and emotional abuse before, but I didn't know it was abuse. And one thing I don't stand for is abuse, because I've been physically abused before, and I walked away from that relationship like out of there, right? And that's another story for time for another day too. I got a lot of story times. Point I'm making. I was talking to my therapist, and this is when I'm telling her where I'm at, and they're like, you know, because she's been in this journey with me, because I kept going. She's like, okay, now I'm scared for you. Like, the things I started to tell her about him and I and what was going on, she was like, now I'm scared for you. She said, we need to create a plan for you to leave. She said, we can create 2 plans, one for you to stay and one for you to leave. And I think that was just like maybe her therapeutic way of just like giving me some type of piece of, we can make 2 plans, one you stay, one you leave, because she knew I didn't want to leave, but she knew I needed to leave. She was opening my eyes up to the abuse that I was going through. And then that's when I was like, okay, I was like, well, I said I would give it 6 months. I was like, and things are getting worse. It got to the point where I think he ended up moving out at some point. He moved out the house because, I know why I got to the point where I was finally just fed up. And we all get to that point where we're like, you know what? I done took enough of yo. And we were reaching that 6-month mark. I think it was like the 6th, 7th month mark when I finally like was like, okay, Jennifer, this is it. You know, and it was like, okay, this is it. Like, some of you probably can relate. Like, there were nights where I would go to sleep crying silently but deeply, because I didn't want him to know that I was crying, because I didn't want to make him mad, right? There were times where I shrunk myself so much in an attempt to make a man happy, or make a man love me, or to make him choose me again, because I wanted the fairy tale from the beginning again. I wanted the love bombing phase to come back. But if you know anything about these type of relationships, that phase just never comes back. Like, even my best friend was like, that she didn't even recognize me, because she was like, my best friend don't stand for none of this. Like, she doesn't put up with this kind of stuff. Like, what is going on here, right? There was a point where I was in the car, and she was coming to pick her son up from me, and we were in his car, and he was like yelling and screaming at me, and she saw all of that, and she had texted me afterwards, and she was like, basically, she was like, nah, that ain't it. And it was in those moments, even looking back now, where it was finally starting to click for me, like, Jennifer, something's got to give. You've been fighting, but this fight got to end. So now it was time for me to lay down the law. Next video. All right, welcome back to why in the world didn't you have the common sense, the discernment? Why didn't you listen to God? Child, welcome back. Well, just welcome back. I think this is part 9. In the last part, I was saying I was just fed up. I had to go back and listen to some more recordings to make sure I'm not leaving nothing out, because it was a lot going on. And I did leave something out, y'all. I have to add to the circus. So this particular day, he had posted something about me on his social media page. He had like blocked me and my family at one point, but y'all know how that go. There's always a way. There's always a way. The girls, they get it, and some of the guys do too. But we saw it, and it started an argument because he was being disrespectful. I forget to who. It was most likely to me, but I think he mentioned like my mom, or he's mentioned somebody else in the post. Nonetheless, we get into an argument, and we're in the middle of the argument, and because at this point I had went from not really reacting to his abuse to now I'm reacting. I was activated, okay? And we're arguing, and in the middle of the argument, he starts playing the song. The song, they be like, F you, F you, F you. And I'm listening to this recording like this man really pulled out his phone to play this song in the middle of the argument. And then I looked at a recording that was like a couple days later where he was calling me. And at this point, I'm recording everything. He's calling me like, man, let's just talk. How was your day? How you doing? You good? Chaos. But nonetheless, at this point, there was something else on social media. But before we get to that, because that actually goes further down the line, what happened on social media with that, I'm fed up, right? So now I'm at the point where I've reached the end mark, and I basically tell him, in order for me to stay in this marriage, this is what I require. This is what we need to do. We need to go to counseling. This is what I want to go to counseling with. This is what you need to do. Da 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 da. Like, I had finally put my foot down. Okay. And I can actually tell you exactly what I said. I said, I put up with enough of your behaviors. I'm not happy and you don't care. And I deserve better. I deserve the man that you presented to me. You gave me the representative, but you've actually always been toxic. I said, you need to heal. I've tried to see you for who I believed you were, but no more. I'm not making any more excuses or compromises. Your screwed up perspective is bogus, and the fact that you can't take ownership for this marriage is above me. Either you do what it takes to be the man you introduced me to, or we can part ways. I'm young, driven, beautiful, and deserve what you told me you was gonna give me. I said, you're abusive mentally, verbally, emotionally. I said, I don't know who you are. I'm done trying. I've done everything that I can. You've barely met me halfway. I don't want, nor do I deserve this. And this is where I'm at. If you want to salvage this marriage, it's on you. You fight for it now, because I'm not. I've done all the fighting, mostly by myself. And that wasn't what I was promised. You never deserved me based on this piss poor treatment that you have been showing. I'm not trying anymore. I'm trying to heal from the hurt that you caused me, and I'm not allowing you to add any more to my life. What I'm requiring for reconciliation. A counselor. I'm not budging on this. I wanted a public apology for the public embarrassment and all the slander and the lies. I also wanted him to take his medication, because he had medication that he refused to take. Praying daily, fasting often, Bible study, respect. The fact that I even had to ask for some of these things, I'm just looking back like, girl. But anywho, I said, and if that isn't doable for you, that's fine. I'm not accepting anything less. Do with this as you please. You can't emotionally bother me anymore. My heart is removed. And when he saw that I was serious, and he knew he had lost his control over me and the situation, oh, he spiraled. I mean, then he moved out. I think he was renting a room somewhere. It was crazy. He was renting a room somewhere. I forgot what that part was, but he would keep coming back and forth to the house, and then some days he would come back to the house and he'd be nice, and some days he would come back to the house and he wouldn't be nice. It was just like, what are you doing? Like, why are you here? And then it would still confuse me, because when he would come back, he'd be like, he came back one time and was like, I don't know what I'm doing, man. Like, I love you. Da, da, da. I forgot exactly what it said, but he basically was like, he wanted to be there. And then it would switch again. But, as you can see, it was hot and cold all the time. And then I remember I was like, you know what, Jennifer? I was like, nope, he moved out. He made up his decision. And you put your foot down. You're not standing for that either. So I went ahead and emailed his attorney, because at this point he had got his attorney involved, and thank God he did. Emailed the attorney. I said, hey, if he's wanting to not be with me, and he's left the house. Could you please tell him to stop coming here? And she knew he wasn't supposed to be coming back forth either. So then that was that. And then, you know, he went on with court proceedings to get me removed from the house, which was fine. And I know a lot of people are like, well, why you ain't just leave? I was married. I was fighting for my marriage. It was my first time being married. I wanted to try to at least try. Okay, I'm thankful I didn't stay for 7 years. I ended up staying for 7 months. Give me a break. Okay. But anywho, this was what then. So then some more social media stuff went on, and this time it involved the ex-wife again, and it was to the point where I pull up to my house after work. Something was said on social media, and then I forget who said what, but nonetheless, it wasn't pleasant. It wasn't nice. It was, you know, they were trash talking. We were trash talking. And when my family and friends get on the internet saying what they want to say, my people ain't got no filter. Like, I'm a bit more filtered now. No filter. And they gonna hit you where it hurt. So she saw whatever was said about her, and I pull up to my home when I get back from work, because, you know, by this time I had to start working again, because, you know, I was like, okay, I'm done. So then also a part of what my therapist was working with me on was rebuilding my life. So I had to get another car because I told her my car, and I needed to get a job. I hadn't worked a 9-to-5 in like 7 years. My best friend, my dog, hooked me up with a job. It was not a job that it was pretty at all, but I needed to start making money, and I needed to start making money fast. So I humbled myself and was like, look, whatever's going start me from moving from the bottom back up, I'm with it. So I'm working, and I pull into my driveway, and I'm like, okay. And I walk in my house, and it's my husband and his ex-wife sitting in our living room. So I'm like, here we go. So basically what I'm getting, because I recorded this conversation too, but it's an hour and 20 minutes long. So I'm going to skip through it and just kind of like figure out what was going on. Basically, something was said. My best friend said something about her. She got mad about it, and she tried to be big dog in this conversation. And I'm like, if my best friend was sitting here right now, you wouldn't be saying none of that. Probably wouldn't even have no teeth in your mouth. You know what I'm saying? But this was then. It's not now. But you know how people are. But, you know, that's the gist, I think, of how this conversation going. And then was another girl that was involved. This was like their mutual friend. Well, actually, I see her pretty often now. But back then, it was only God that I didn't run into some people back then. But back then, after this conversation, because she wasn't present for the conversation, she was on the phone. This was a good conversation. I really wish I could play it. But anywho, it gets to the point where I don't even know why we started talking about him and I, but he's trying to like be big dog, I guess, in front of her. But baby, at this point, because I'm listening to myself, baby, I had it. I was done. I had receipts. I had everything. I was like, look, this is what you said. And I was like, I said you here. I said, he was like, I said, I'm going to leave. Okay, well, if you're going to leave, leave. And he was like, well, you say that now, but then you say you want your marriage. I do want my marriage. But every time you throw out that you're going to leave, you think that's supposed to scare me. And it didn't scare me no more. At this point, I'm like, well, shoot, leave. Basically, that conversation ended positively between she and I, not with the other person, but that ended fruitful. But it was something else that I just thought about. All right, I'm exhausted, so I am going to take a break to make sure I'm still telling the story in order. There's more to tell, and I will see y'all when I come back. Maybe later tonight, maybe tomorrow, I don't know. But listening to these recordings, well, some of them are funny. Some of them are like, oh, Lord have mercy, I can't believe you went through all of that. And then some of them are very enlightening, because I've come across some prophetic words too that I'm listening to, and I'm like, wow, like, God, you really did what you said you was going to do in that season. So stay tuned. Welcome back to the ghetto I think this is part 10. The videos are a little out of order. Just, you know, bear with me. I was really tired yesterday. But the thing that I remembered there was a lot of things spoken from the other side. It specifically, things said like, well, the prayers have already gone forth, and there was a Facebook post where she said, and I cursed that family, that family's bloodline at the root. Now, I got deliverance, and I have prayed and broken covenants and all of that stuff, so it had no power. But I just want you to understand the type of people that I was dealing with. You know, we had him, he literally told me that he said a prayer to change my mind. And then even throughout the ordeal, the mom was always saying, well, the prayers have gone forth, and this is going forth. And it was always these little different things. And I was getting prophetic words that somebody was working witchcraft. Now, mind you, she was a pastor. I'm not surprised. There are people in church that do witchcraft. Nonetheless, it had no power here. Still ain't got no power here. And everything that has been sent to me has been sent back, to which it has come forth. Okay. But I think we're at the part now where he's moved out. He wants to get me out, and we have to go to court. So we have to go to court, and I'm okay with that, because my thing was like, I'll leave, but you're going to make sure I am financially comfortable to leave, because you put me in the spot that I'm in, and you're my husband. So guess what? I'm holding you accountable to the fact that you have to provide, protect, provide, and all those other things, even on my way out, period. So we go to court, and got a black female judge. I represented myself. My best friend showed up as a surprise. Shout out to my dog, because one thing we do is we show up for each other in good, bad, or indifferent. And the judge had asked me something like, you know, well, why do you want to stay there? And I was basically like, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I ain't had the money to move. I ain't had no furniture. Like, I was renting a bed, and it was in his house. I was renting a bed from either Rent-A-Center or whatever. Aaron's one of them, because, you know, he threw out the other bed. We were on an air bed for some other time because he threw out the bed. So I'm like, I'm not just going to up and leave, and you not going to help me get back on my feet. It's not working that way. I'm sorry. Not as my husband. Now, if you was just some little boyfriend or whatever, okay, I'll take that out. You my husband. So no, I want what's due to me. So the judge was like, pretty much like, why you? I was like, I want to be comfortable. Da 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 da. I forget all the back and forth, but long story short, she told him, you need to pay for her to be able to leave, and they agreed on an amount. Well, we agreed on an amount. I was like, that's fine. Or she said the amount. I forget all the specifics because it was so long. Well, it was almost 43 or 4. I just don't remember. Period. Whatever the amount was, he said that he could have the money to his attorney, and I could pick it up by the end of the day, and I would have to move in a month. So I'm like, cool. That'll be my down payment or whatever I need to get into my new place, or to just be my money, depending on where I want to go, right? So this was November or December. I think I had until like December to leave. And this also put the separation legally in place, which, thank God, it did. Because here in North Carolina, you have to be separated for a year before the judge will grant you a divorce. Ghetto. Hated it. But my year was during the pandemic, so we'll talk about that later and how that worked for my good. So, you know, I'm like, okay, I got the money. I was working again. I had restarted my business. So I was like, you know what, Jennifer? Leave. It's time to go. You put your foot down. You're literally walking out what you know you need to do. So, you know, packed up my stuff and all of that good stuff. And one of his homeboys at the time, he didn't want him to know, but he started communicating with me on the side, because he felt like what his boy was doing was wrong. And it was. Now, his homeboy also thought I was cute, but that was neither here nor there, because I wasn't interested in him like that. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, bruh, like, I'm not even mentally and emotionally in a space for that. But I'll say this, he was being very nice, and he felt like what his homeboy was doing was wrong, so he was trying to make sure that he could make amends in a sense, I guess, or like try to help out, because at the end of the day, it was like, dang, like, you doing this girl dirty. So when it was time for me to move out of his house, he actually came and helped me move. He doesn't know, he didn't know this, but he came and helped me move. And I of course, I'm not going to tell him, because I'm like, thank you, because I did need somebody to help me move. So he helped me move out. And I ended up going to stay with one of my girlfriends at the time, because I wasn't sure if I wanted to go back to where I had came from, or if I wanted to stay in the state that I was in. So I was like, well, you know, what do you want to do? So God actually showed me her in a dream, and I asked her, and she was like, yeah, that's cool. So I was like, give me like 60 days tops. So in that time period, I remember my best friend said to me, she said, regarding my ex, she said, he gonna be back. And I was like, you know, at that time, I'm like, my emotions are all over the place. You know, this is like the last straw for me. Because I always told him, I said, when I leave that house, I'm not coming back. That means the marriage is done. There is no reconciliation. Like, it is over. And I meant that. And she was like, he'll be back. But I couldn't see that. I'm like, they always come back. But my mind, I had so many emotions of just being sad, disappointed, devastated. You know, what's my next step? So many unknowns, so much uncertainty. And I just was like, okay. So I ended up staying with her. I'm still working. Y'all, no more than 30 days, probably less. Guess who comes? A texting, a calling. I forgot. I think he texted me. Your boy. Talking about something, I got some mail at the house. So that makes sense. I was living there. You know, okay, there's some mail. I'll come by and get it after work. I come by to get it after work. He hands it to me and there's $100 bill with it. So I'm like, what's this for? And he was like, I don't know. I just feel like, I feel like you need it. So I'm just like confused. I'm like, well, thank you, because I do need it. Thank you very much. Probably for groceries, gas, whatever. I'm in a rebuilding phase. So thank you. I do need that money. But what is that about? And he goes into this story about how he was in the shower and how God was showing him this and how he needs his wife and how he was confused and just a whole bunch of, hogwash. But let's keep in mind, during this time period that I have now been out the house, I am studying. And when I say studying, I am deep diving into these different personality types that my therapist has now revealed to me. I am studying and I am like being enlightened. Like the light that was off was on. And I was like, wow, I didn't know this. But that's what he was doing. That's what he was doing. That's what he was doing. And not only was he doing it to me, but he also did it to his ex-wife and some of his exes. Because, that was the other thing I wanted to tell you. And one of the things he said in one of the recordings was, because we had gotten to an argument, he was like, it was like I ain't leaving you, I ain't leaving either. And he was like, okay, he said, I was married to somebody for years and didn't want to be married to him. And I was like, so you're used to this. You're used to this. And then I'm listening to conversations that I had with his ex-wife, and I was like, oh, I'm putting 1 and 2 together, and I'm like, you put her through the ringer too. I understand now. The math is math in here. And even I forget what it was that I learned in this behavior, but that's something that they'll do. They'll keep you in a relationship as long as you'll stay and keep you in that cycle. They get a kick out of it. So when he said that, I was like, oh, you've been crazy. But anywho, so he comes back. He's like, trying to be nice, I need my wife, blah, blah, blah. I forget everything that he said, but I just was kind of like, and I'm not going to lie, one part of me was just like, wow, maybe there is a chance for reconciliation. Because again, I'm married, right? Like, I am first submitted to God, and I did not want to disappoint God. And then two, I'm like, this is my first marriage. I look at marriage differently than just like you, my little boyfriend, you know what I'm saying? Or somebody I'm kicking it with. So I'm like, well, I'm looking at it from both perspectives, but I'm also like, Jennifer, you're learning all of this stuff. You knew he was going to come back. That was one of the things I was learning too. You knew he was going to come back. You knew he was going to be hoovering, or he was going to have a tactic. And they say that they always come back with the way that they tried to get you. And the way that he tried to get me was with what, y'all? Money. Showering me with the gifts, showering me with the cash apps, sending me on first class flights. Whatever I wanted, I got. That's how he started off in the beginning. So I said, oh, this is the cycle starting all over again. Next part. Welcome back to part 11. Getting my life back. And part of getting my life back, I went on a journey. And I'll touch on a lot of that later, but I went on a journey of like healing, deliverance, prayer, therapy, etc. And I produced an amazing product called Pressure, Lessons in Love versus Toxicity. It can be found on Amazon. So you can just go on Amazon and put in Pressure, Lessons in Love versus Toxicity. Shout out to my girl Jessica who made the cover for me. And my name is Jennifer Mason. So if you want a copy and you want to learn like my full process of how I learned to date again, how I healed, all the different steps, and some more of the story that I'm telling you right now, but it's on chapter 4, you can grab this book off of Amazon. But anywho, back to the story. So I'm like, yeah, you know what's going to happen. Now I got the playbook. Now I have the playbook because I've been doing my research. I have been watching TikToks. I have been watching YouTube videos. Like, one of my things that I did in the morning was I listened to videos about narcissistic abuse, YouTube videos, when I was in the shower while I was getting dressed, because I was like, I was trying to understand what happened. When you come out of those types of situations, you're still very foggy. You're still very just like, what in the world just happened, right? So the education piece for me was healing. I was like, okay, this makes sense, but now I had the playbook. So I'm like, you know, then came the flowers at work and wanted to take me to dinner, and I did go to dinner with him a couple times. What else? Let me look at my book so I can remind myself. The money, sending me more money, helping me with stuff. Like, now he was back to the guy that he introduced me to, right? And this is why I said I don't believe that it was just the surgery. I believe it was just the surgery. He's back to the guy that he introduced me to. But it wasn't until I finally left, or he got me put out. I don't care how he want to word it. I was gone. But anywho, so I was like, I'm going to watch and I'm going to pray. I'm going to watch and I'm going to pray, and I'm going to see how this plays out. Because, you know, I'm still slightly optimistic, because I'm just an optimistic person. If you know me in real life, I see both sides of everything. So, but I said, let me watch and let me pray. And in this time period, you know, I'm rebuilding my life. I'm getting my money back up. My best friend had held me down. I was helping her, and she was putting extra money in my pocket. She had found me the job. You know, oh, it's another part that I forgot, y'all. I don't even know where I want to put this now. I'll just insert it here. Shout out to my mama, okay? Because when he moved out the house, y'all want to know what this man did? He turned off the electricity, turned off the water. I forget, it was something else I think he turned off. So shout out to my mother for giving me the money, because I didn't have it at the time, to get the electricity put my name temporarily. And then I think my mom's husband knew a guy that was able to come out and look at the water and turn the water back on for me, because him and his mad, spiteful self had these things turned off, knowing I'm still in the house. But you are my husband. But this is also the same man that we're talking about now, trying to get me back. But I had to make sure I put that in there. But again, you know, I'm getting my life back on track. My money's getting up, you know, I'm rebuilding. So I said, I'm gonna watch it, I'm gonna pray. And I watched it, I think maybe over a period of maybe 3 months. I watched, and I think we got to April. And by April, I had moved. I was staying in a townhouse. And let me think about this for a second, because I want to make sure I remember. I'm back. We were having a text message conversation. And because I always said, I said, if he's really this person and it wasn't just the surgery, it'll be consistent. I said, but if not, the mask is going to fall off again, because the mask always falls back off when you're dealing with these types of individuals. So I forgot what he said in the text message, but he had said something that let me know he was back. And I texted him, I said, there he is. Been waiting on you to show up. And in that moment, I knew this divorce is going through. It is over. This is not a cycle you about to be back in, girl. I told him I didn't want to hear from him no more. I told him I wanted the divorce. And that, I believe, was the last time I spoke or even heard from him. Yep, I think that was the last of it. But rewind, because I forgot about this. Because he did have children, and the children got brought into the middle of it too. Some of them were grown, some of them were almost grown, like in their teens. And there was a lot of stuff that they witnessed, a lot of stuff that they had to endure because of this situation. And this was at a point of we were supposed to be reconciling. He was supposed to be apologizing to my family, and I was going to apologize to his girls. And y'all know I'm a girl's girl at the end of the day, so I'm like, I don't have no issue, you know, talking to them. Like, they shouldn't have witnessed none of that. Granted, it was because of you, but they shouldn't have witnessed that. But I have that conversation on record too. One thing's for sure and two things for certain, I keeps me a receipt. People, and then I ain't gonna say that. People don't be wanting to keep receipts, but the receipts be coming through when you need them. Okay, so I listened to that conversation today, and he specifically admitted some things to his children because, you know, there were so many lies put out there. I was just like, kind of like, oh, so you're going to admit to them that this is what happened. Now, he was still trying to blame it on the surgery or whatever, but he admitted, like, he was like, you know, well, put yourself in her shoes. You know, she came here with the idea that it was going to be one way, and when she got here, it wasn't that way, and yada, yada, yada. You know, I had apologized to them. I think they, and they had some questions for me, and there were some things that needed to be cleared up because a lot went on. A lot went on. Now, I'm not going to say I was a saint throughout the whole thing, but I came in with the right intentions. I was met with a lot of opposition, and I was mature in some areas. In some areas, I was like, who you playing with? Okay? But I also should have never, by my husband, I should have never been put in any of those situations in the first place. But nonetheless, you know, we did have that conversation, and I ain't even gonna hold you, like, his girls ride for him, and they should, because they would become, anytime I talk about this situation, I'm surprised they ain't showed up yet. Anytime I talk about this situation, they be in the comments, they be going off, and I just be like, Lord have mercy, just mind your business, you know what I'm saying? But nonetheless, like I told them then, no love lost, no love gained. It just is what it is, you know what I'm saying? They were put in a situation that they shouldn't have been in, and that really wasn't my fault. And it's crazy too, because like when I listen to the different recordings and I listen to the voice, it literally sounds like two different people. So just keep that in mind too. For those of you that may be in this kind of situation, or you might be learning from my situation, pick up these little key things so that when you are dealing with somebody and you feel like you're dealing with a Dr. Jekyll and a Mr. Hyde and you don't know who was who, pay attention to that, because that is a telling sign. But anywho, so that was that conversation. But I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing this no more. In the midst of that time period, I was like, God, I was like, God, I want to find a therapist that specializes in narcissistic abuse, toxic relationships, etc. And I didn't know anybody, like, just off the top of my head or whatever, or from a Google search that did. But God is so faithful that he, I'm on TikTok. I was like scrolling on my For You page, and I came across Matthew Fiverr. I'm gonna make sure I tag him. Don't forget to tag him. But and I don't know what he does now as far as like his coaching and classes, but he has so many resources. But in that time period of my life, when I say having those one-on-one sessions with him was part of what really expedited my healing, I got to give credit where credit is due. Now, I'm a woman of prayer, I'm a woman of fasting, but I also believe in therapy too. And I think combined, all of those things is why you see the woman that you see sitting here, because that was ghetto. And then I don't know if this like ends the story. I'm pretty sure once I look through the comments, I'll probably like respond to some of the comments and it'll bring up some more things. But when it was time for me to sign my paperwork, I called his attorney and was like, hey, when's the divorce papers going to be ready? They were like, you can actually come by this afternoon, because I was counting the days, okay? I was counting the days. I was like, okay, I'll be there. Went on my lunch break, signed them things. When I looked at the actual like final day that I was divorced, it was the last day of December in 2020. And baby, I went into 2021 a free woman. Hallelujah. And I didn't see him again until maybe 3 years later. Like, I didn't hear from him, and it was nothing for him to say to me. But I hadn't like ran into him in town or anywhere until like 3 years later. And baby, when I felt like I saw a ghost, I felt like I saw a ghost. Next part. Part 12. I finally see him after about 3 years since the divorce. So I'm living my good life. You know, life has moved on. Life has been grand. God has been good. You know what I'm saying? I'm just living my life. And every Thursday I had this spot that I would go to that I hang out at, and it wasn't a coincidence to me that I had started seeing people that he knew start to frequent this same spot. So I was just like, all right, well, you know, I don't care if they come in here, but I hope he don't come up here. But I am thoroughly convinced that somebody told him that I'd be up there, because one good Thursday he walked in, and not just walked in, but walked in and like was on the left side of me. I'm sitting at the bar minding my business, and I looked and I'm like, I felt like I saw a ghost. I was like, I don't know what was going on. I'm just sitting there like in shock, you know what I'm saying? Because I haven't seen you. Like, didn't want to see you, haven't seen you, didn't plan on seeing you. So I'm sitting there, and while I'm sitting there, what I'm realizing is that, like, there was another level of forgiveness that needed to happen. For sure. For sure. Because, you know, when you forgive somebody, you just be like, okay, whatever, and you don't see them, and you don't have to be bothered with them in any capacity. We didn't have no kids together. We didn't bump into each other. We didn't go to the same church. Nothing. It's out of sight, out of mind. But baby, when I left that evening, I was like, oh, I need to forgive him some more, because I needed to forgive him some more, because I could have just off GP, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, that was the first time I had seen him since God knows when, and it was not pleasant. And I'm gonna just leave it at that, because I don't want to say nothing mean, but it confirmed some things that I had already thought was going on. But yeah. And for my healing girlies, you get it. Like, you don't really know how much you've recovered or what feelings are still there until you have to be faced with the thing that you actually, you know, had to heal from. So what I did was, I remember I was actually dating somebody at the time, and I called them and told them what happened. And thank you to him, honestly, because he, like, just let me pour out what I was feeling and what had come to the surface. And I needed that moment, because when something bubbles up, you need to let it bubble up and go out. So I was able to get it out. But what I was feeling was like, it just brought back all of those memories of how evil he was to me and how mean he was to me. It wasn't like I was angry. I was like sad. I was like, I can't believe that this man was so mean to me. I couldn't, like, it brought it back to my memory, and I was just like, he was such a evil person to me, and I had did nothing but been good to him. Like, I uprooted my life. I came here to support you through the biggest surgery you've ever had in your entire life. I married you. I stood by you, and that's how you treated me. Like, those were the feelings that I felt. I was like, I just couldn't believe it. But you know, I re-released him. Like, God, I forgive him. You know, because the Bible says, forgive them, bless your enemies, you know, all of that good stuff. So I just forgave him and let it go. But I also am thankful for that moment, because I wouldn't have known what was still kind of hidden, that still needed to be healed and needed to be revealed and be uprooted up out of me, because I don't want to take any baggage of that into my next marriage, right? Because I'm going to be married again, and it's going to be a good marriage, and he's going to be fine. I'm going to be attracted to him. All the things are going to line up. He's going to love me like Christ loved the church. And I ain't even tripping off that. But I don't want to bring none of that type of baggage with me. So I was able to release that, and that's done and that's dealt with. But there was something else that I wanted to bring up. For people that have gone through this, there was another aha moment for me. And this was through me learning all the things that I had been learning through, you know, YouTube, books, therapy. When I wasn't in therapy yet, but I remember sitting at my desk. And this is when, like, the cloud lifted. Now, if you've ever been in a toxic relationship and you got out of it and you finally, like, had your aha moment, you understand what I'm about to say. I was sitting at my desk at work, and I just was overcome with emotion. And I was like, I can't believe I went through that. I can't believe that really just happened to me, because when you're in it, you don't really see it for what it is. Like, everybody on the outside could see it for what it was, and was like kind of confused, because they like, Jennifer, you know what I'm saying? But for me, while you're in it, you are mentally in a war zone. Like, you're in a different place. But when that cloud finally lifted from me, and this was shortly after I had gotten deliverance, so get that deliverance, okay? I had gotten deliverance, and I was just like, I can't believe I went through all this. I don't know who I texted. I think it was my mom. And I was just sitting there, and I was bawling, crying, because I was like, just upset. And then I was also upset with myself, because I was like, Jennifer, how did you let somebody do this to you? And granted, it was not for that long, but it was long enough for me to be disappointed in myself. So I say that to say, when the cloud lifts off of you and you finally come back to yourself, or when you're coming back to yourself, forgive yourself. Because when you're going through that type of psychological, and for me, it was psychological warfare, mental, emotional, spiritual. When you're under something that heavy, you're not yourself. You are not the person that you were before you met that person. You have turned probably into somebody that is a bit more passive, someone who is shrinking themselves, someone who is not as confident, someone who is dumbing yourself down. You're suppressing your emotions. Like, you're going through all of this stuff. Like, realize that it wasn't really you. It wasn't really you. And as you're finding your way back to yourself, you're finding your way back home to yourself, forgive yourself and be like, you know what? I'm sorry. I shouldn't have put up with that. And take every lesson and let that lesson be the building block to it never happening again. And baby, when I say I can spot toxicity, like I could sniff you out. Now I'm like, I thank God for that opportunity for a couple reasons. Because one, it ain't going to happen ever again. Two, any man that's tried to pursue me since then, if they had even a smidge of that type of toxicity, I've been able to see it from the beginning, and I trusted it. What's my third one? And three, the amount of women I have been able to inspire, teach, help heal, educate. I mean, the amount of women, and I'm talking about thousands of women have bought this book. Thousands of women have come to me for coaching. Thousands of women follow me on social media, primarily on Instagram, same handle, Single Lady Notes. And thousands of women are now either not going to experience this, be able to spot it sooner, and thousands of women are going to be able to miss this mishap or heal from it, because I decided to open my mouth and say something, because I didn't decide to wallow in shame and say, well, you know, I'm embarrassed because this happened to me. How are you supposed to be a expert in this area and this happened to you? And I always remember when I first started telling my stories online and I saw the response. This is in 2014, I think. And God told me, he was like, your story, your testimony is the key to women's prisons. And I said, you know what? From that day forth, I will never be silent again. So for anybody that comes across this video today, a year from now, whenever, if you are sitting in that place of silence and you're sitting in that place of trying to figure it out and you need help, I got you. I got you. If you're somebody and you know that you need to tell your testimony, you need to get your story out, but you're scared of the backlash, scared of what somebody's going to say, scared of all of these other things, guess what? Let me be living proof to you that your story needs to be heard, and tell it from the rooftops. Tell it as many times as you want to. Tell it to whoever you want to, and never be ashamed of the things that you've gone through at the cost of you having a good heart. Because at the end of the day, the one thing that I hold on to is that I left that relationship with all of me. I didn't leave anything with him. My good heart came with me. My good intentions came with me. My wifely character came with me. My love came with me, right? He got left to whatever his life ended up being. And anyway, but you get to take all of that with you. There's one more thing I need to say. Next part. Okay, part 13. I think this is the last part, but something just came to mind. But I was saying basically like all the good, you know, that comes later. And another thing too, when your heart is right and your intentions are pure and you are in right standing with God in a certain situation, and somebody does something to you and they don't repent, they don't apologize, etc., do not think that they get away with it. There is a time where vindication will come. And there is a time where God will just remind you that you weren't crazy, even when people thought you were crazy and you didn't know what you was talking about because you was just this little girl. Baby, I forgot about this. This might have been maybe 2 years ago. Maybe it was a year ago. It was more recent than not. It was recent, but I just don't know how recent. If it was like last summer or the summer before. And another thing too, like, since then, like, I've ran into his ex-wife and her husband plenty of times, and it's always love. Like, ain't no beef there. I don't got no beef with her. Like, it's over. You know what I'm saying? I don't have no issues with his kids. You know, they probably don't really care for me, and I understand that. But even when it comes to that, like, I've ran it. Even my, his ex-wife and my mom, they had a conversation even after the whole Facebook incident thing. They had, and everything was squashed. So, you know, I don't want anybody to think like, oh, this is like we got no. The last time I saw her was at my homecoming. She was having a ball with her husband. They are always having a ball. When I see them, they look good. They having a good time. I'm actually happy for her because I understand. Okay? And like, to see her in this new space, in this new life, in this new happiness, she deserves it. She deserves it. So I don't want nobody to get that confused that there's like any type of beef, because it's not. It's actually all love. This is just me telling my truth and my story of what happened at that time. But I remember I ran into them, and the husband pulled me to the side and was like, I need to get your book. I'm like, you need to get my book? He was like about, I need to learn about narcissists and all of this other stuff. And I was like, huh? Long story short, I wasn't crazy. That situation ended up erupting into something bigger after I was off the scene, and the two of them, you know what I'm saying? And from what I got from it, the new husband walked a dog. You hear me? Now, I don't know where they are now. Don't get me wrong, because of course I don't ask. I don't keep up. Hopefully they have reconciled for the sake of the kids, because from what I heard, the only reason that he didn't go any further was because of the child being present. But I say that to say, and not that I condone violence, because I don't, but that was like sweet vindication to me, because the little girl who didn't know what she was talking about, the one, they thought you thought I was insecure or I was jealous or anything. It was none of those things. I just knew what I knew that I knew, and I knew that the way that dynamics of those relationships wasn't right. I just knew it wasn't right, and I had to stand on that. So I say that to say, you may not get a front row seat in God spinning the block for you, but baby, he always gonna spin the block for you. And I'm pretty sure there's been some other things that have happened. I've heard some things, don't really care to share what they are, but when you do right by people and people don't do right by you, God is gonna make sure that he fights for you. God is gonna make sure that the vengeance is his. God is gonna make sure that while you being still, he got it. So don't feel like you got to get your lick back. You know what I'm saying? Because there were plenty of ways I wanted to get my lick back. You know what I'm saying? But let God do it. Because when he spin the block for you, baby, he spin that thing. And when he swing on your behalf, he swing a lot harder. And to be clear, the people that were the old husband, new husband, old husband. Okay, just so we are clear, I don't want y'all to think that he's beating on his wife, because that's not that. That's not what I'm saying. So I hope y'all enjoyed my story. I hope that you learned something from it. I hope that it helped somebody, more importantly, and I hope it cleared up anything that maybe people didn't have clarity on. If y'all have any questions, you can drop them below. I'm gonna be looking through the comments over the next couple of days and responding to some of them as necessary. And yeah, if you guys want to reach me for anything additional, go to my Instagram, because right now I have a link in my bio that is for a promo deal. Well, what do we call them? Influencer deal for that. And that's not going to connect you to me. But go to my Instagram, and if you click the link in that bio, you can find out all things Jennifer, everything that I have going on, and stay connected with me, because I know I got some new followers. Hey girl, hey. Hey guy, hey, because it's both sides. But yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed. But I definitely think that I have a few more story times to me, because there was once upon a time where I was engaged, and I was engaged to a man who thought it was appropriate to break off the wedding and break off the relationship via email 2 weeks after we sent the invitations out, and 2 months before our wedding. Y'all just let me know if y'all want to know that story.